And viewers, as the SEBI chairperson enforces more transparency in the mutual fund industry, there's good news for people in private jobs, self-employed, or anyone not working for the government who has an NPS account. The Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, PFRDA, has made big changes to make national pension system more flexible. Why the new change? Now, when you retire or exit normally at age 60 or after, you only need to use 20% of your saved corpus to buy an annuity for regular pension income. This figure was 40% before, allowing only 60% lump sum. But now, with the new rule, you can withdraw up to 80% as a lump sum, and that's significant. There are special rules for smaller savings too. If your total corpus is up to 8 lakh rupees, you can withdraw 100% as lump sum, so no annuity needed. And between 8 lakh and 12 lakh rupees, you can take up to 6 lakh rupees lump sum and the rest in structured ways. But now to understand the pros and the cons of this development for salaried and as well as non-salaried professionals, we have Pankaj Matpal, founder and CEO of Optima Money, and CA Abhishek Mehta, CFA at Investa Capital. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us in this conversation. Let me set the stage by first asking Mr. Matpal. The new NPS rules reduces the mandatory annuity from 40% to 20% for non-government subscribers. What do you see as the biggest advantage of this increased flexibility in lump sum withdrawal?
Malika, good evening. Shay, good evening. See, definitely it is good for the subscribers. It gives them more flexibility because as an employee, they contribute 10% of their basic salary and 14% is contributed by the employer. So whatever total accumulation at the time of retirement, earlier or till now, they get only 60% lump sum, and rest they have to use to buy annuity from an IRD approved insurance company. Now we know 60% what they get, they can use in their interest as they want, but that 40% for which the annuity has to be purchased, we know the rate of annuity is very low. Generally means if you see, it is on the corpus, whatever the used to buy annuity, which is purchase price, around 5.5%, at the rate of 5.5% or 6%, they get annuity. So looking into this, if they get more flexibility, they can use that money in their interest wherever they want to invest. It will be really good. And in old age, see, more money in your hand where you have liquidity, that is better. Only con, if you ask me, is that if the subscriber, they do not have control on their money, they withdraw it and then they spend it and do not use it for means pension, whether it's annuity or in any other sense, but they do not keep it for long term, that can be something means hurt them. Otherwise, I think that if more money in hand, it is giving them flexibility and they can use it in their way.
More money in the hands is a good part, but at the same time, personal fiscal discipline is paramount as well. Mr. Mehta, the extra 20% lump sum that can now be withdrawn, how is it likely to be taxed compared to the earlier tax-free 60% limit?
So more or less that will go under the tax slab. I would just like to go one step back, and a few weeks back we got the labor laws being changed, and now a major change in the PFRDA. So if you'll see, now the basic component will be 50% of your salary. 12% will go in the employee provident fund from the employer side, 12% will go from the employee side. And now a salaried class can have a 10% going into NPS. What does this mean? 24% of your basic salary will go into a product which will be a debt product, which will give you a 7.1% return. And 10% of your basic salary will go into a product which will give you more or less an expected return of about 12 to 15%. So government has done very good thing by doing changes in both the rules, the labor laws also and the PFRDA. PFRDA will give them equity kind of returns, and the basic increase in basic will give them more of debt returns.
Okay, so there are fixed returns from debt and as well as flexible returns because of equity exposure of the NPS. But
Yes.
Mr. Matpal, on the flip side, reducing the annuity portion means less guaranteed lifetime income. How significant is this risk for average non-government employees?
Exactly as I mentioned earlier, see, if you're a disciplined person, it is good for you because there are so many choices in your hand. So, money coming in your hand does not mean that you're spending it. You will use for annuity only, not exactly from the idea to insurance companies. You can use in your ways. You can invest in mutual funds and opt for SWP or any other scheme which is suitable for you. So, if you're disciplined, it is good. But yes, as you mentioned, if the subscriber is not disciplined, and the money is spent immediately after retirement, then it can be really means not so good for the subscriber. So only thing, when you have money in your hand, you have to be disciplined with this, because when you buy annuity, as I mentioned, that rates are very low. But one thing is guaranteed, that till the time you're alive, you get the pension. So that was one good part. But as I said, because rates are very low and you do not get increment in that annuity, the another means not so good thing about it. But if you're disciplined, definitely it is a good move.
Okay, if you're disciplined, yes, it's a good move. But a follow-up to that would be, now that you have the option of controlling how much money you put into annuity, before it was 40%, now it's 20%. This is for non-government employees especially. Do you think this also opens the door for some mismanagement of money for people who are not very aware or wise with managing their capital?
See, as far as the management is concerned, it depends means which scheme you opt for. See, you have multiple choices whether you want to go active choice or auto choice. In active choice, also you have um, means option that how much you want to contribute in um, equity. See what Abhishek mentioned, and the different thing that out of your total contribution, how much they have to put in employee provident fund, how much has to go in NPS. But within NPS, we talk about in the tier one, tier two, and when we talk about pensions, it's essentially a tier one scheme, and you have choice to allocate that miss how much in corporate bond, how much you want to allocate in equity, how much in government securities. So the investor or subscriber who are not financial savvy, they can go for auto choice, where as per your age, your allocation to equity keeps reducing so that your risk also gets reduced. But if you are means financial savvy, you know about capital market, you can decide your allocation.
Okay, okay. Well explained. Mr. Mehta, you were first earlier explaining the contribution to the debt instrument as well as the equity instrument now increasing as a byproduct of the tweak that was done in labor codes before and now this rule. But for high
Yes.
net worth individuals with large NPS corpus, does this rule make NPS significantly more attractive than before?
So see, one thing is it definitely makes more attractive for people who are in the higher slab rate, because there's only one section 80 CCD 2 which is allowed in new regime. There is absolutely no deduction which is allowed in the new regime apart from section 80 CCD 2, which is the employer contribution of NPS. So I would urge all salaried class people who are in their highest tax bracket to definitely opt for NPS, because that will save them a good amount of money. There is no limit. Even if the employer is contributing 10 lakh rupees as a part of your NPS contribution, the entire amount will be tax free. So, more or less, on day one itself, when the employer has contributed your money, you have got a return of about 30%.
Entire
So,
capital is not tax-free, right, Mr. Mehta? Earlier,
sorry?
the 40% bracket. So the 40%, when you retract that 40%,
Yes.
that's tax-free. But if you want to now retract the additional 20% that the government facilitates now through this new rule, that is taxable, right?
That is taxable. But when the employer is contributing, suppose today you're working and your employer is contributing 10% in your NPS, the entire amount is tax free. So if your employer will contribute this year 10 lakh rupees in your NPS account, 10% of basic salary, that entire amount is tax free. So you today itself you have earned 30% return on that amount.
Okay, I see what you're saying over there. But Mr.
Yes.
Matpal, how should investors now rethink their overall retirement allocation between NPS, EPF, mutual funds, and other instruments given this enhanced NPS flexibility? Do you think the new NPS rules for private employees makes EPF relatively less attractive?
The choice is not in their hands. It depends, means whether your employer is providing you this facility or no. But if you are into NPS regime, in that case, definitely employer contribution will also help you building corpus plus your contribution. One must go for that. But if you do not opt for this or if this facility is not available in your employment, so in that case, you have all citizen model then where voluntarily you can invest in NPS. Now, whether you should go for NPS or you should go for mutual fund, it depends. Then how disciplined you are, that is one thing. Second thing, that how much knowledge you have about the mutual fund, because in NPS, the choices are limited, options are limited. But in mutual funds, you have many choices, whether you want to go for large cap, mid cap, small cap, something like that also, or sectoral funds, etc. So multiple choices are there. But in general, if you do not have much knowledge, you have limited knowledge, first thing you should opt for NPS, which will help you building a retirement corpus, and then you should think about other instruments. And Malika, I should add one more thing that the question you asked Abhishek, and I think there was little bit means maybe confusion in understanding what I feel. See, when you contribute in NPS, there are two benefits. One, what Abhishek was telling, that when you invest, that time only you get benefit reduction under Section 80 CCD2. That is on the investment part by the employer contribution, he meant to say. Second thing, what you asked, that whether that 40% what was being withdrawn earlier and now 60% now in lump sum and now 80% in lump sum, whether additional 20% is taxable or no, I think in the next budget, I expect that CBDT will or means government will announce something or CBDT will make some arrangement in that as well, so that total lump sum amount should be tax-free in the hand of subscriber.
Okay, all right. Very quickly, Mr. Matpal and Mr. Mehta, let's take in your closing statements. We've reached the end of this discussion. In one word, if you had to highlight the big picture of this tweak when it comes to NPS, what is a big takeaway and why do you think people should welcome this move? Mr. Mehta, we'll start with you first.
So I think I'll conclude it say by saying for all the professionals, they should, for all the salaried class people, if they have an option to opt for an NPS, they should definitely go for it because of the tax benefit. And for all the professionals, I think if they have good knowledge about mutual funds, they can still go with mutual funds, and they would not want to lock in their money for up to a period of probably till the age of 60 or 85. So that would be my conclusion with this for today.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Matpal, 20 seconds, very quickly, please.
Yeah, because there's more flexibility now in NPS, I think that subscribers should think of increasing their contribution to that. Who are going for voluntarily and who has the mandatory contribution, they should definitely opt for that.
Thank you so much. So overall, a big positive for especially non-government employees. Thanks so much for participating in this discussion and giving us more clarity. And viewers, remember, these changes apply only to non-government subscribers. Government employees still follow the old 40% annuity rule, but overall, as experts highlighted as well, if you're in the private domain, this gives you more control over your retirement money.